This week, I set Garrett off on a 1,000-episode adventure of a lifetime.
And I try to become the king of the news.
Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Garrett.
And we watch anime. Garrett, this week we proved the old adage that the road to 1,000 steps starts with the first one. In this case, I'm talking about 930 episodes as of this recording. We're going to start a new theme on all of the episodes that end with 3, because we're going to be tackling the big 3 anime of One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto. This week, we talk about probably one of the most universally acclaimed anime in the history of, ever. The pirate adventure anime known as One Piece. So Garrett, before we start, what are some initial thoughts do you have about One Piece to start with?
It appears as if you're trying to get me to watch 937 episodes where the lead character is unable to hold a conversation with anyone.
That is true. He is. I think that's one of the things you have to get over is, this man is dumb and he's not going to get smarter over the course of, 20-something seasons. So,
right.
Yeah, so, yes, there's not too much to explain with this one. One Piece is... It's like trying to explain, Joe Montana to a football fan. It's just not going to work. Even to someone who barely knows anime, they're going to know this topic. So it came out in 1997, specifically the manga. There was a manga one-shot that the author made beforehand called Romance Dawn that was liked so much that it got converted later into One Piece. The anime began in 1999, so this is a very long-running show. And as I said, it's up to 937 episodes. The author is Eiichiro Oda, and that man is now valued at $200 million as of this year. So this man got very wealthy over one property.
It's probably the most, either this or Naruto, it has to be the highest valued money-generating property,
And not just from weebs like me and noobs like you in the United States. I mean, when you go to Japan, there's One Piece themed theme parks. There's One Piece themed stores. There's One Piece everything. It's all over the place. It's up there with Hello Kitty and Anpan Man in terms of Japanese ubiquity as Peanuts would be here. So here's the thing. For all of you listening out there, we're not even going to bother to say should you watch it because you should. It's essential. It's essential watching. But the real question that we want to ask this episode is, why should you bother, right? Why is it even worth it to take on something that for the all length of it is, and I did the math with my wife, if you were to just sit down Clockwork Orange style and hold your eyes wide open and were to watch nothing but One Piece for 24 hours straight, it would take you 2.5 weeks to finish the whole series. Just watching it straight, knowing that, and that's if you get rid of all intros and endings.
Challenge is not accepted.
And another thing that's really crazy is that you and I watch these shows and One Punch Man, 2 seasons, Full Metal Alchemist 5, that's pretty crazy. The gap between where you start, Garrett, where you are now versus where I am is the difference between China and Brazil. They're just so far away from each other that we might as well not even be having the conversation. So once again, I'm going to take my boat over to your side.
Okay.
And talk about what it's like, because honestly, it was really interesting to watch again the beginning shows and see how much it's changed. So we're going to this episode, we're going to be talking about an extreme noob review. I've enlisted the help of my wife to watch 2 episodes to get an idea of what she thought about it.
I did not know this. Okay.
You, Garrett, have watched it before because I pushed you to do it. And this is you reviewing it again. My wife has never seen it. She watched it fresh today. So stay tuned because we're going to have a wife review at the end of the show. But first, Garrett, you watched up until Arlong Park. You didn't have to, but for the most part, you walked through the Arlong Park arc. Mm-hmm. What struck you? What are some things that you liked? What did you take from it so
far? First and foremost, they really know how to stretch a storyline out. Mm-hmm. In particular, so Kyle's referencing a story arc called the Arlong Park story arc. And I went online and I said to myself, okay, Kyle says watch 4 episodes, 6 episodes. You don't need to do more than that. Mm-hmm. But I went online and I was sort of curious. I wanted to know, One Piece fans, what do they consider the minimum? And sure enough, in some string somewhere, it was not on Reddit, someone asked the question.
Under all the Nazi propaganda.
Right. how long before I know if I like this or not?
Right.
And of course, some guys are like 937 episodes. But the general consensus was that if you get through episode 44, which, by the way, at 20-minute episodes is still a massive time commitment.
It's a time commitment, yeah.
But by then you see enough crew members, because it all starts with this singular character, Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to be the king of pirates. And he's like a snowball going down a mountain in that he keeps collecting people to
yes, that's very true. And
crew.
The dumbest snowball that's ever lived.
About as smart as a snowball.
About as smart as an actual snowball, yes.
Yeah.
So maybe step back a little bit and tell us.
Right. So for example, I'm on I went even back again to watch like episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and one of the first characters that they run into is a villain called Buggy the Clown, who is very self-conscious about his red nose.
It's not a fake nose; it's a real nose.
Yes. What are you talking about? A fake red nose? Anyway. But that one villain, he's just a pirate terrorizing a town that Monkey D. Luffy's going through, and he's meeting other characters. I think they stretch it to like 4 episodes. And you're like, oh my God, like it's, in some ways it's impressive. And if you watch it in the beginning, you're like, ooh, yeah, it's great. But as you kind of go on, you're like, all right, buddy, let's get through this, okay?
Another thing that you start to learn is you start to get like One Piece glasses, in that the recap, especially now, is like 5 minutes long. Like, I've watched all of this already, and you're making me watch it again in the first 5 minutes, and then the end is like, what's going to happen there? So you honestly could, if you learn to do it well enough, you could really watch 16 minutes of the episodes, and just like you said, they stretch it out as long as they can.
One of my favorite things, so again, I went back, tried to watch many episodes, but many years ago when Kyle and I were living together, we were watching One Piece, and I don't remember what streaming service it was on. I believe it was Hulu.
Hulu, yeah.
But you had to watch it with commercials. However, Kyle had this magical ability where he could fast forward to the moment after the recap, but just before the commercial, and the
title screen. I know how to find the title screen where it goes,
and it wouldn't trigger the commercial.
Like, boom! That's my spot right there. Yeah,
and it would go right into the episode without triggering the first commercial. I was like, oh, it's so great.
I know. You got to get, sometimes when you really have to do it right, especially when you're being cheap and getting the ad full, like not ad free, but ad full version of Hulu. It's important.
Right.
So for the uninitiated, especially including my wife who watched it today, what's it about and what makes it interesting? You know,
all right, so
paragraph, 2-paragraph sentence on what you think it is.
Monkey D. Luffy is this young character. You'd probably imagine he's in his late teens, early 20s, but probably late teens, real string bean type of guy.
Not drawn like your traditional, like, Goku or Toriko or anything like that. He has no muscles to begin with.
He wears jorts.
He's like John Cena. He's the John Cena of anime.
and he wears a vest with no shirt on.
His name is Monkey D. Luffy!
But so he grew up in a pirate town where there was actually, I don't want to call him a good pirate, but a less than bad pirate named Shanks. And he sort of idolized this guy. And he looked up to him and he promised him, I'm going to be the king of pirates. And as the intro to every single episode tells you, there was this king of the pirates, Roger. Bull Roger? What was it?
His name's Gold Roger. At this point, you know him as Gold Roger, yes.
Right, Gold Roger. And he died, but he supposedly hid one piece of treasure that would sort of be the be-all, end-all treasure of everything. If you control this, you control all the power in the world. And it's supposedly in this area of the ocean referred to as the Grand Line.
Right.
And it's a really dangerous place, because you're in the middle of the ocean. There's a lot of bad people out there. Everyone's gunning for this since Gold Roger died. And this sort of oblivious, naive guy, Monkey D. Luffy, is just like, I'm going to be king of pirates. Yeah!
He's like, if there was, so for Garrett to get like a little quick pause, you're going to notice this as we start stumbling into more shonen characters, is the quintessential shonen character. They're going to be hyperactive. They're going to be very strong without any explanation. They're going to be always hungry. They're going to be always like so free willed that they like the world changes based on their free will, basically. And that's he is like a very quintessential shonen character in that regard. Okay. So I'm glad you're picking
Why the hunger?
I think that was a Goku trait that just everybody just started doing. Goku from Dragon Ball Z. So like it became like a fun thing that like they're just like, I don't care, and they're just eating food. And it's like, if there's a flaw, being gluttonous is not the worst of it. Like all the 7 deadly sins, being gluttonous isn't the worst of it, right? So I guess make the flaw that, I guess. But it is true. It is like a big thing. So as Gary, as you said, it's a really good synopsis of like this idea that you're going to go on, once again, the friendship journey, kind of like you did with like Cowboy Bebop, kind of like you did with, Samurai Champloo, but a more kid-friendly version of it in which everybody's my friend. And by the time this episode ends, everybody's going to know me and love me and be my friend. It's very kid version of it. Right. But it is got a lot of heart. It does have a lot of like great.
Well, that's the thing about the main characters. I say he's naive. I say he's oblivious. We say he's as smart as a snowball rolling down a hill. But at the same time, he does, at the right moments, he makes the right choice, the moral choice a lot of times. So I could absolutely see why it's like a positive thing for children to see, because you're sort of in this weird place where like they're pirates, right? Pirates, as we know them, are supposed to be inherently bad. They steal from people, whether it's the government or whether it's from other people. But that's not really his concern with being a pirate. He just wants to sail the ocean blue, you know? And
by the time of episode 2, we learned that not even like the good guys are good. Like we learned that the Marines have some very problematic elements to it.
It's like the real world.
Right, exactly. Like the good, bad, or otherwise, there's a lot of people trying to get theirs, and it causes oppression wherever it lies. So yeah. But yeah, I think what's great about this show that I love about it, and it's a very tried and true formula, is that it really shows true cruelty. It doesn't sugarcoat it. And that's what I appreciate about Japanese animation, is that anime doesn't mind showing what true cruelty looks like. It puts it in your face. When there are bad people, and when they do something bad, they're doing it for their own reasons, and they do it to harm you, to oppress you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. And the shonen character is there to subvert that idea. Because there's always characters going, do you know who I am? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what this is all about? There's like this constant, like, the world exists in this really bad wheel that you're just stuck on. But the shonen character is going to break that wheel, much like Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons, and get moving forward into a world that's less oppressive. And I think that great, like, cathartic feeling of the baddie just getting punched in the face, who the whole time was being as cruel as possible, whether it be Arlong, whether it be Axe Hand Morgan, like these names, by the way, I haven't heard thinking about these names for like 15 years. It's cathartic. It really is.
And might I also add, I left out a key synopsis point when Kyle talks about people getting punched in the face. Not only is our protagonist want to be a pirate and he's dumb, but he's also good. He also ate something called a devil fruit. It's the gumma or the gummy, I guess.
Gum fruit, yeah, in English.
Gum fruit. And essentially, he's a rubber man.
Yes.
So that means that when he punches a baddie, he doesn't just get to punch him from, the regular trajectory that we would punch someone, but he will like yell out, gumma pistol, and his fist goes all the way back. 30 feet behind him, whips up, and punches him right in the face. Right. And so there's a little extra satisfaction that comes from punching a baddie that hard.
And especially one that's like, for the longest time, be like, I'm gonna kill your family and I'm gonna take over everything. Like that feeling of that guy getting punched in the face is good, and it works, and it's worked for 937 episodes. But that brings me to a good point, because I think the devil fruit idea is something that I thought was really unique when I first saw it. I was like, oh, what a cool idea, is that you're like, anybody can gain these powers. It's not from being born with it or falling into like radioactive thing. It's like eating this weird fruit, and it gives you random powers, and these powers are so eclectic. It leads to a lot of really funny and cool fight scenes. And the thing I want to say is that Eiichiro Oda, the author of this show, picked the idea of like the rubber fruit idea because he wanted you to never be stressed out when you battle. Like, No matter what, no matter like if you hope that Luffy doesn't die or get hurt and you what, it's still a man flinging his arms around like they're rubber bands. Like that's silly. He's still doing like ridiculous things all the time. And so he wanted the people to be something that you wouldn't be stressed out while you watch, which I really appreciated. So like even so, there's like as you go forward, you realize that like some of these the most gnarliest, baddest human beings have the most ridiculous powers that make them look like absolute weirdos. Yeah. Like one that like it turns into a candle man, or like one that like that guy still, or one that makes whipped cream as his power, but he's still like one guy that he literally makes cookie monsters, and like. But that guy's still scary. You're still scared of the Cookie Monster man. Like it's.
By the way, are you caught up? Are you all 9?
I'm all caught up, man.
So let me ask you: is there an infinite number of devil fruit? Do they keep making them up?
Yes. So according to the legend, what they set up is that there's officially over 100 devil fruit. However, that is not a number that like he's going to hold himself to. In fact, including the filler, like. Got to be over close to that number as of right now. And another thing is that there's also like non-canon fruits, meaning like this is not part of the story because we put in a filler or a random story or a movie that we don't care about. You and I have talked about filler before. The second thing is he's also made joke ones. So there's one called the I think it was called the like Get Me, or the disgusting fruit, and all it does is it makes you smell bad. It's not really like a power. So he's made like joke fruits as well that like you ate it and you like hit the bad lottery piece. So yeah, that's one of the things, and I think that's really a funny part of it. Mm-hmm.
A quick point to what Kyle was saying is we're talking about filler episodes. When I first watched this, I was like, Kyle, I'm gonna give it the college try. I think we watched like I don't know,
50 something, yeah, I think
50 something episodes. Yeah. But I ended up getting to 150, 200 episodes. But I only got there because I would go to my sensei and I would say, Kyle, please tell me which episodes can I skip. Now, what happens here, and I've talked about this with my wife, and it's crazy to her that an animated TV show would outpace a manga. Mm-hmm. But they do, and they can either wait. Mm-hmm. Or like Game of Thrones, they can just make it up as they go along. Mm-hmm. But unlike Game of Thrones, they usually don't make up something of consequence.
Right.
They'll be like, you would text me and you say, Garrett, you can skip episodes X through Y because they wander around in a desert for 10 episodes and nothing is achieved.
Yep, and you never have to talk to the person again. It's like no one ever goes like, "Hey, remember that D-bag in the desert we met?" And like no one ever brings that person up again. It's just like, yeah. Like, wasn't that weird? All right, let's move on.
It's kind of like the anti-Metal Gear Solid, where they create stupid filler.
Everything is consequential. Yeah. Every little thing is consequential in Metal Gear Solid. If a guy eats a red Skittle, you're going to go, ooh, that means something, because then all of a sudden you're going to have, like, Revolver Skittle Man, like, come up and he's like, oh, yes. And because I left it on the ground, now World War III happened. Like, that's very...
Yeah, but that game was only available on the Lynx handheld system like 22 years ago.
Oh, that's stupid. What was it called? It was the one where they explained like most of the story, but it was on PSP only, and I was like,
yeah,
mobile.
Assassin's Creed did that too. But anyway,
so annoying.
Back to One Piece. So that's filler, guys.
It's not worth it because it's not worth it. You know, I'm just gonna say, like, I've watched enough of it. Trust the Weeb in this situation.
That's what we do here. That's what this show's all about.
Right. It's not worth it. It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't add anything. They don't talk about it later. They never bring that person up again. It really does not matter. It's there for you to be entertained and distracted by the time, so they can catch up.
Right.
But that being said, Garrett, the next portion that once again, we're going into like the idea of why should I start this show?
Yeah.
It's daunting. What we're going to do is we're going to keep coming back to One Piece and the other big three. So this is not the only episode we're going to touch on it. This is the like 1 to 4, like season 1.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? And why should you keep going?
This is the starter dish.
This is the starter dish to this. It just
to wet your palate.
It's like if you're an Italian family, it's the frozen sherbet that you have after your antipasti. Like that's where we're going with this. And so what I'm going to do is like I thought in my head, Garrett and I kind of came up with like questions that anybody who's watching this show up until like 40 episodes would be asking. And Garrett and I are going to kind of hash through those questions to assure you that it's worth watching this show. There's a reason for it and why you should kind of stick with it. So the first question is, why should I even start, but like, is it going to get any better? Because when you watch this thing, it's old. You could clearly tell this thing was made in 1997. Like, if it was maybe 5 years earlier, it would still be like He-Man, where you have like one picture held, but like just the mouth is moving, like, right. Like that.
Yeah.
Just 5 years later than that, you get the good stuff. So,
yeah. Well, I would say why. Okay, why should you even start? Okay, Kyle, do you like rock music?
Yes, of course. Love rock music.
If someone were to say, man, I'm a fan of classic rock, and you said to them, well, hey, have you ever listened to any Aerosmith? And they're like, nope, never gave it a try. That'd be ridiculous.
Right.
If someone said, I really love mystery novels, and you're like, oh, you and I talked about this. You must love Agatha Christie or Sherlock Holmes, and they go, oh, no, I've never read either of those.
Yeah.
So why should you give it a shot? Because it is like the foundation, the bedrock of anime.
Right.
So you should show it some respect. You don't have to like it.
Right.
But you should give it a shot.
Right. I think that's a good point. And more than anything, I think for more than anything, the first couple, this first season is actually weirdly relaxing to me. Like, the stakes are still really low. Like, as much as there's conflict and thrills to it, it's not something that like is super wild and crazy and violent. And that you're dealing with small stuff, you're dealing with smaller amount of people. And so I would say, just as anything, you can just relax and enjoy this show and sit back and enjoy it, right? That's why I would say you can start it and like not really have too much, because it's really low risk in my mind. Because once you get to 937, like things get nuts at that point. The battles get huge, and like right now it's in like the Wano country arc is wild. Way too many people for me to keep track of, but I still read. Yeah. And the second thing of like people thinking about animation, why should I watch it when it's cartoony? Like when something weird happens or Luffy does something stupid, their mouths get like the maws on these people get like humongous. They're like, yeah, that style. I get it. I get that is cartoony. It's stuff. It lightens up later. Yep. Like it doesn't get that cartoony. In fact, it gets more realistic as the show gets on. Okay. So I'll just say like recognize that that's a time and place first. And then,
there was a time and a place. You cannot discard something from the past as being dated without understanding where it came from. You know, think about today's like action movies or versus ones from the 70s or even
let's talk
60s.
About Batman, for example. Like
okay,
Batman in the 60s, man, was a wild ride, man.
Well, that was a completely different tone. But even if you want to take Batman, the Christopher Nolan trilogy versus the two movies that Tim Burton did, yes, it's sort of a dark caped crusader, but there is absolutely a difference in tone. There's a difference in technology and what was available to make it at that time.
With Joel Schumacher, there were nipples.
Right, but I was talking about the bookended good property.
Right, Joel Schumacher, may rest in peace, but yeah.
But absolutely, but I know that maybe it's unfair of me because I've looked at other things and said that it was dated. I don't think that's ever been why I've not given something a good score, though, because I can't hold against something when it was created.
Right.
But it's understanding a part of the history of anime. And like you said, it dissipates.
Yeah, it goes away. It gets more serious. And you know what? I think you and I can kind of agree. It's almost like Harry Potter in that you are a huge Harry Potter fan. You've read the books multiple times through. And I remember I read The Sorcerer's Stone last month, right? Yeah. And I said, Garrett, this is very kiddie-ish. I'm 35 and I'm reading a kid's book. Right. You said to me, this book grows with you. Yeah. I will say the same thing in the reverse about One Piece. It's very kiddie-ish, but it grows with you. Right. There's a certain generation of Japanese and Americans and Europeans that watch this thing at a certain age that now carry it, and it's grown up with them. And that's the same thing I would say about with Harry Potter, just to a much longer extent, Right. So then to the third question of the is it going to get any better is the question of, is it for kids? Is this more of a kid show?
Certainly at the start, but I can tell you that very quickly, again, through the first 40 episodes, when you start to learn about some of the past of the characters. So remember, folks, we kicked it off with Monkey D. Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
The first person who becomes a member of his crew is a certain green-haired fellow that Kyle cosplayed at
And
New
I met
York
Hulk
Comic
Hogan
Con.
I met Hulk Hogan as this character.
Yeah,
Yes.
Kyle was dressed as Robonoa Zoro.
Which I didn't. That's such a flub for a Japanese person to say. Like, we can't do R's and L's very well, but let's make sure the character has at least 3 or 4. And
Right.
say like, no, Zoro.
Right.
Like, it's tough.
And so the next person that they meet, that they try and enlist, is this female character named Nami. When you start to get to her backstory, there's some pretty dark, heavy,
and
like, things.
And also it fills your heart to find that, you know, a lot of the times what all these characters needed was someone to share the journey with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a common thread through all this. They all have dreams that they want to explore. Like, Nami wants to make a map of the world. She wants to explore the world and make a map of it. Zoro's thing is that he wants to become the greatest swordsman. So he wants to go out and fight the best fighters.
Right. So to your point, in the beginning, Zoro's actually a pirate hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And Monkey D. Luffy says, join me and be a pirate. And he says, my ultimate goal is to be the world's greatest swordsman. So if anything we ever do together stops me from doing that, I'll expect an apology.
Yeah, or he's going to leave. He just said, I will leave.
Yeah, Nami says, I'll never be a pirate. Mm-hmm. However, let's work together towards our common goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's the idea. So this goes to the central thread of Nakama. So you're going to hear this. The word that gets overused a lot in One Piece, and one thing that like Weebs overuses is the word Nakama, because Nakama is
family.
It's friend, but more than that. It's people who share. It's friends who share a journey together. So when you watch Arlong Park arc, when he goes to, when Arlong goes, why do you want to take this thief, this terrible woman who steals from you and all that stuff? He screams like, she's my Nakama.
Yeah, very poignant moment.
It's to say that I register this person as sharing, as joining me and sharing my journey. Mm-hmm. And that's an adult idea. So to answer the question of like, is this for kids? No, that's you can consider that an adult trait, right? Of like, keeping those that share your dreams together and keep them close to you. So I think, to answer the question, it grows up with you, but at the same time, there's some universally adult themes that you can really appreciate from it. Yeah. The second question that we have in our FAQ is, when does it get good? So if you're a person like Garrett who got to the minimal standard of Arlong Park arc, I would say, yeah, that's a good way of like gauging whether or not you're going to continue watching it. If you're wondering when does it get good, that is different for each person. But what I will say from my perspective, the thing that the arc that got me in, and one that I kept pushing you to get to, because I felt like once you got to this arc, you're in.
Yeah.
Although it's a long way to get there, is the Water 7 arc. And the Water 7 arc is where we wrap up Robin's journey, as well as you meet Frankie, who joins the crew later too. Yeah. It is so long though. Water 7 is super long, but it leads to these really great moments. So Garrett, this won't make any sense to you, but the I Want to Live moment is one that I still, like, if I watch clip of the I Want to Live moment, I still get choked up.
Little watery?
Yeah, I still get like a little teary. Like, it is such a, like, everybody can feel what that moment meant. So, spoiler alert, Fred, for anybody who's got the Water 7 arc, is Robin, who you'll meet later and after one of the Alabasta arc. She is always like the crew member that people keep one eye on because they don't know about her. And that's because throughout her entire life, people told her that she's garbage, that she's unlucky, and that's because she has this very hard past. And so she leaves the crew to get captured by the Marines, knowing full well that she was going to get executed because she didn't want to put that burden on the Straw Hats. And so the Straw Hats obviously go to rescue her. They say, I want to save you.
The Straw Hats being Monkey D. Luffy's crew.
Monkey D. Luffy et al. There's a few more in this equation. And they're all standing there going like, Robin, we're here to save you. Are ready to go? And she's like, no, get away from me. Stay away. I'm a nobody. I deserve to die, all this stuff. And Monkey D. Luffy's like, I don't care. I don't care if your pirates are your enemies, the government's your enemy. I don't care. And he goes, but I'm not going to come get you unless you tell me you want to live. I don't want to hear any more of this. I'm garbage. I don't want to hear any more of this. I don't deserve it. I want you to tell me that you want to live. And then she gets to this moment like, do I dare say it? I've internalized all this trauma for so long. She's just like, emotes this like, I want to live, like take me to the sea with you. It was just like a like, I got that. It is so good. And I like if I want to like make sure, like, you know, guys have to like really find specific things to make themselves cry. Like if I really want to like have that moment, that's one of the things that I'll
Have you ever had to act in like community theater again and they're like, we need you to cry in this moment?
And I'm just Kyle like, I'm looking up there, I want to live moment on looking at Rob, like, I want to live. Like, I'm ready. So
and that, ladies and gentlemen, was A Streetcar Named Desire.
Instead of me going Stella, I'm going Robin, and they're like, Kyle, that wasn't the line. So, so I would say to me that's
good. It's good on a lot of levels. Right. So that's
find your I want to live moment is what I'll say to those people. Is there are many times where you'll get to that point where you will say, damn, that made me feel something. Find it. That's what I would say. When it gets good is when you have that moment. So
right, and you're gonna have fun along the way. It's not like you're slogging through stuff.
No, it's so fun, and the humor's great. And as I said, it's very low barrier to entry in that regard. So, the next question that we have on our frequently asked question is, why is it so popular? Like we can say that it's good. We could say that it's ubiquitous. It's long running, obviously, for a reason. But why this one?
Well, I would say I haven't spoken to a lot of fans of anime. I could imagine, like many things, especially with kids, but even adults, with a cast of characters, everyone has a favorite. It's like teen girls like listening to NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, and they're all like, I like Howie. Are you kidding?
I have a funny story with that. So my cousin... My cousin, this is a weird tangent, but my cousin joked around that like we always made fun of him because he had a New Kids on the Block poster. Yeah. He was always like, that's because my older sister put it on the wall and said, you have to have a favorite. Like, if anybody has an older sister who like New Kids on the Block, we can all attest it. But yeah, you're right. It's like you have.
So I bet when people watch One Piece, they end up finding a character that they identify with. It's probably not Monkey D. Luffy. Because again, it's the whole Ross and Ted syndrome where the lead person is not really the most interesting. It's the side characters.
Right. And you don't actually know as much about his backstory too much throughout the show. They put a lot of attention onto the rest of the characters and what their motives are. And so, yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, you can find your favorite character. I also think that it does have those great moments of like just pure levity and like you just like emote this like happiness and joy. Like every arc ends with them all going to a bar or a party and just like drinking, going, yes, we did it. Like you feel like you were there.
They give you good payoff.
Exactly. The payoff is real. Like when like Arlong Park ends and he destroys Arlong and Nami now wants to be part of the crew, spoiler alert for a show that existed like 20 something years ago, is they all get together and they celebrate with all the random mofos that they met along the way. Like the alligators that randomly talked in the second episode of the arc. Sure, they're picking with them. The random wrestler with a luchador mask who's just like owns the club for no reason.
Why not?
Why not? Like everybody loves Monkey D. Luffy by the end of it, and they all celebrate together, and you feel like you're part of it. So yeah, I would say like it's. You like Garrett says, you can tie yourself to any number of these stories, but also at the same time, you feel like you're celebrating with them. Like it makes you want these guys to succeed in that way. So that would answer that question for me. And the payoff's going to be there, just like Garrett said. If you keep watching, there will be a payoff moment. I don't know what that is going to be for you, but at some point, if you float along, you'll find it. Yeah, you'll find it, of course. The third thing that the next part of the FAQ is to kind of go over the barriers to entry. You and I, Garrett, we talked about the barriers to entry.
First things first, I wouldn't tell anyone that there's 937 episodes.
Great. I mean, I would agree with that. It is a point of order to say that.
I would say, hey, you want something to binge?
Yeah.
And and I'd say there's a lot of this. So if you like it, there's a lot you can get into. And they'll probably watch 10 episodes and be like, oh, I don't like this. Or they'll say, oh, I like this. How many are there? Oh my God. You know, like.
And as a weeb alert, let them go there, right? Let them float away a little bit from this property. They'll come back to it. They will. Because just like you said, Garrett, like the worst thing a person can do is get butthurt because someone doesn't instantly like something you like. That's what this show is all about, is to avoid that conversation, is to bridge that idea that like if you don't like something, if someone doesn't instantly like something, don't get butthurt about it.
Yep.
They'll get back to it, especially if they like other anime. Like maybe they'll go to Naruto for a bit and they'll be like, I like this Naruto thing. And then you'd be like, well, One Piece was like that. Why don't you keep watching that? You know, there's ways to get them back into it. It's always going to be there.
You can also get tired out on something.
Right.
And
right.
And
my favorite.
Forget about it and come back to it and have it be fresh.
Right. Exactly. I also think that, and I think just like anything else, like knowing that it's that long means it actually should be less worries, right? It's like a Sunday comic, right? You know that Lucy's gonna be there with the football. You know that that Garfield hates Mondays. You know that,
but he loves lasagna.
You know BC is terrible, Jesus-loving cartoons that are not funny, and you know all that. You know all that. It's there. You know, and
that Marmaduke is always gonna.
Oh, that Marmaduke! He's just eating himself in his head shrivel. He's so big. You don't belong in that couch, Marmaduke. Sorry.
Right. But yeah, so I think it's actually pretty easy to get into. Don't play it up to be as epic as it is, because it'll overwhelm someone and they'll be like, well, there's no way I'm ever going to watch that many episodes, so why am I going to get into it? Don't do that to someone. Don't put that on their shoulders. In terms of actual watching, in the beginning until you get not even that far, maybe 15, 20 episodes, it starts to disappear. In the beginning, you're like, wow, this is pretty cartoonish. It is a cartoon. I get it's animated.
Right.
But it could be passed off as sort of like a kid's thing. But once you actually start to pick up on the themes, they're heavier than that.
Right.
There's not a lot of fence to jump over to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
It's also everywhere.
Yeah, and not only that, but like you have to. This show more than anything does have like you have to suspend some disbelief, specifically with the cartoon logic. Like there's a lot of things that happen because cartoon logic exists, not because real things exist.
Yes.
You know, like for example, when you went to Arlong Park, for example, we'll go back to that of why is it that Luffy is all his power should be gone when he goes into the ocean, but for some reason he's still able to stretch above the water so he stays alive. Like, what part deactivated? Was his neck? Is it basically his, like, I still think about the physics of that and I'm like, that makes no sense. But you have to like suspend your disbelief for some of this stuff as cartoon logic, and you know it's fun.
I'd just like to point out that one thing I find really fun, and I don't know if they keep this for 900 episodes, but some of the musical cues are really like when they're starting to build up to like the bad guy and they're like dun 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 dun.
They still do that even in like 900 episodes later. That music cue is still there. Dun, 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 dun. You know what? And I still feel something when I don't know if they do, you probably weren't able to watch this on Netflix, but usually, especially in the Japanese thing, the mid card or the part that symbolizes that we're now in the second half of the show is usually a wanted poster flies in, and each character has their own theme song. So
we watched that when you and I watched it years ago. You're right. It's not in the Netflix, but
no, it's not. They cut a lot of it.
It's on Hulu?
I don't think it's on Hulu either. Oh, no, Hulu does. Hulu does have that part. Like, so if my memory serves me, this is my Weeb powers. I'm going to go. Luffy's is. Now Zoro's is. Dun, dun. And then, so then Nami's is.
Yes, I do recall that.
Here we go. Now you got Usopp's is. That's his part. And then let's go to Sanji's is my favorite.
Sanji is probably going to be, for a lot of you out there, certainly probably my favorite character. And for everyone at home who's watching or listening to Kyle channel his weeb powers, yes, this man got laid in college. Yes, he's married to a beautiful woman. You too can be a weeb and have a social life.
It's true. That's the thing, I had to hide it for a while. But I think if there was a character I would say that you have to cosplay as at some point, that is 100% most to your personality, like your free spiritedness, but also like your smoothness, the kind of like molassesness of you, is Sanji. Like if you want a person that you know, when Garrett is not doing this podcast, and he's like, if he was to go on a boat, he would be Sanji. He'd be the chef. Right. He'd be talking about
I do love, though, that he basically, so he's their chef, and he makes incredible food. But every time he has to make something amazing, it's just like fried rice again. And you're like, oh, he made fried rice again.
It's just so smooth. And another thing that was great, and this is with the subs versus dub thing, is that he smokes. Yeah. And in Japan, that's just, everybody smokes in Japan. But because they didn't want to do it, Funimation and Viz Media all did the thing where instead of a cigarette, it was a lollipop. So like he's like, and pulls out, and there's like this like dum-dum hanging out the end. It's so stupid. It's like one of those things that like the kids for kids media, and like they all made the censorship really stupid. Like instead of the guns having bullets, they had pop guns. They're like pew 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 pew. I'm not kidding you. Like the old-fashioned corks.
They've gotten away from that now, right?
Yeah, I'm glad. A different company took it over and since got rid of that. But yeah, so another thing is people can find Luffy a little bit annoying is another buried entry. I get it. He's very like hyperactive. Yeah, he's very ditzy. But that's endearing. And as Garrett was saying, he's not, as much as he's like the central part of the show, it's more of a character ensemble piece, so I think it's totally good with it.
Yeah.
So I promised this to you, Garrett, and I promised it to you guys out there. I had my beautiful wife, who's never even heard of One Piece, sit down. Because has your wife watched One Piece before? I believe she has.
She had an ex who I think made her watch like 100 episodes. Good. So she did not join me on this journey.
Right, but she's had it at some point.
Yeah, she's familiar.
My wife watched the first 2 episodes. Just for those who know who forgot completely what happened in the first 2 episodes, is where Luffy meets Alvida on a ship. Mm-hmm. The Mace Alvida, and the second episode where we meet Axan Morgan and Helmeppo, his little snotty son. So here were some things that Garrett, see if you agree as a noob.
Okay.
She goes, the opening is really frenetic and jarring. And she said, I'm surprised that Kyle, doesn't get motion sick watching the opening scene. It's very like, like things are spinning and like, and like she's like, I don't disagree with that sentiment. It is very frenetic. I don't know why I don't get motion sick.
Yeah.
Like it's upside down. And let me tell you, I'm 35.
Yeah.
The song We Are still gets me amped. Like, and specifically the really stupid parts. Like sometimes I'll be in bed waking up in the morning. For some reason, it's like, you know, random earworms in your head. Yeah. I'll stay here like, Poketo no coin. So that you want to be my friend. Like the random English in between. I think it's freaking hysterical. Like, we're going on this adventure, but do you want to be my friend? Like, that kind of stuff. It makes me feel like there's happiness in the world. And I just, like, whenever I'm feeling down, I'll remember that part of the theme song.
But do you want to be my
friend? We are on the cruise. Like, it's, by the way, Japan, it's not a cruise. A cruise is a very specific thing in English.
Yeah.
I don't care how much we are. We're not going on a cruise. We're going out to sea.
Yeah.
So yeah, that being said, so she thought that like she was just completely jarred by the opening scene. That's her first thing. The second note she said was, I'm glad to see that there's no boob jiggling and fan service. To which I replied,
oh, just wait.
I said, give it a few episodes. Because Oda has been critiqued very, very frequently about how his women aren't just like anatomically incorrect and that their racks are humongous, but they also have the figure the size of my hand like this. So it's like boobs, like a tiny pencil, and then a giant ass. Like it's like, where are the organs on these women? Like it's like you.
Her stomach is in her left butt cheek.
Her stomach's in her butt cheek, and her liver's in her right breast. Like I go, just give it time. And Garrett, you've mentioned this, so I'm going to let you explain the legend of Nami's breasts.
Right. So when you first meet Nami, she's this little sneak thief, which she resents greatly being called a sneak thief.
Cat burglar, no.
But she's like this immature girl. Again, like Monkey D. Luffy, probably in her late teens, something like that. But as the seasons go on, and not really episodes, but as the seasons go on, they make her breasts larger and shinier. And like, honestly, in like the first 10, 20 episodes, she's probably like an A cup. Second season, she's like a C. She's sporting a D by like 100 episodes in, and you're like, what is happening here?
And weirdly enough, Garrett, breast sizes actually don't do like the double Ds. I'm like, they actually go up as high as I. Like it's like in centimeters. So unlike like a double D to like an E would be an I in Japan. So like she's like a J. Like by the time she's here right now, that woman is a J for jiggle. Like
right. And again, it's what it is. It's fan services. They were like, hey, she's the lead. I guess we are honor bound to do this, which is a weird thing to be honor bound to do.
The second thing is that the third thing is she was like, pirate ships are weirdly girly. Why is one of them pink? That was her third note, was that she's right. Pirate ships in this show, for being as you know, as like foreboding as they are, have like lambs on their head, or
like Alvida, Mace Alvida. Her ship has like hearts on the. I kind of thought it was almost like the Queen of Hearts, right? And she had like a purpley fuchsia ship with hearts on the sail, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Oh, and what's the ship that the Straw Hat crew is on again?
On the Going Merry.
The Going Merry.
The one with the ram's head as the front, who's like smiling. So it's like, watch out for me, as it grins towards you. Yeah. And so that was her.
Oh no, it's the grinning.
Oh no, it's the grinning sheep. Oh no, watch out. And the fourth.
Beware the sheep that floats above the sea. Arr.
Its grin will take you to the locker. Which also brings to now her fourth note, which I think is really important. And she goes, "Are pirates a thing in Japan?" She's like, "Do they understand?"
We think so heavily of the Caribbean pirates,
right? Yeah, like we have a good understanding of what a pirate is. It goes yo ho ho. It drinks rum. It has eye patches. Like she's like, do they get that there? And while there was like piracy happening there, it was very different than what this is portraying, which is more, as you said, the Caribbean, you know, trade style, you know, trade commandeering version of it. But it's one thing because it brings me to another show that I maybe will show you one point. It's called Katekyo Hitman Reborn, which is it's about the mafia. Okay. But imagine an anime version of that, and every time I watch it, I go, that's not the mafia. That's not the mafia. This is a great show. That's not the mafia. That's not how the mob would work. And like, it's like Japan like is so kind of close to it, but not really. Yeah. So her next note is that she doesn't understand why Luffy is so strong, even with his rubber powers, but she still thought the Rubber Man thing was funny, which I kind of agree. Yeah. So she still like she had moments where she was still laughing. A woman as sure of herself, you know, as she is. She actually thought that the rubber stuff was funny. She then said that she goes, there's obviously something special about Luffy's speech. She said it sounded more like he was speaking Chinese or Korean, and that it was very staccato and like very like. And I had to explain to her that like he was speaking very boyishly, even though it's a female. By the way, it's a female voice actor who does Monkey D. Luffy. Is that it's very like it's very. Like he uses a lot of like boy terms. He's used very boy slang, and so. But for some reason, she's like, "There's something weird about his speech I don't quite get." Yeah. Like everybody speaks like a normal pattern, but he doesn't. So that was her thing. Yeah. She found the old school aesthetic to be charming. The fact that like even though it's set at night, you know, like even though things kind of look modern, the clothes looks recent, everything like that. They're still shooting cannonballs. They're still using boats. There's no like motor boats. There's no, you know, like crazy. There's no cell phones and stuff like that. In fact, learn about the snails end up being their version of stuff.
I always like liken this to the Avengers, right? Yeah. So if everything is an extinction level event, right? Like we have to save the planet. Now we have to save the universe. Right. The stakes are so ungodly high that it just stresses you out, or you tip too far and say this is boring. Right. But if you stay in a more comfortable, manageable zone of the quaintness of pirate life, that's why it's still popular. That's why when Johnny Depp came out with a movie based off of a freaking ride, one of the worst rides at Disney World.
Seriously, I don't know how that worked.
It was a mega hit because it was fun. It was low stakes, and you know,
and they stretch it out
by a toothed anus.
That like spit ejaculate.
Yeah, it was like the wax man from One Piece was inside.
Yeah, it was just like bah! It was so weird. I don't get Johnny Depp's appeal. Yeah. But
anyway,
that's another story for another day. She also said that the sub versus dub thing is kind of an issue because she's like, people are talking so fast that I can imagine that kids watching that are from the United States would probably have a trouble following the show if they watch the subtitles. And I don't disagree with her on that. In fact, but I also want to say that the dub.
Why is she challenging the reading level of young Americans?
Don't know. Well, that's another thing. It's I don't think the dub is good at all. It's terrible, in fact.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they do these weird, stupid censorship things with the lollipop versus cigarette.
Yeah.
They also get rid of Nami's cleavage. It's actually a joke. And that, like, anytime Nami has cleavage, they just like, erase it. So she's just like one big top. Like there's nothing connecting anything. Yeah. It's just one big space there. Yeah. And not only that, but like Zoro's name is Zolo, which is
why? Is it a copyright thing?
I know. I think it's because I think in the United States they were worried about the copyright of Zoro. In Japan, they don't care because the R and L are too close in sounds. Yeah. So that like it kind of sounds like an L, like Zoro. Zoro, is it an L or is it an R? Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, and I remember when we were in we were at Comic-Con. Remember, and I was as Zoro cosplay. Remember that kid called me Zolo? Yeah. And he goes like, "Oh, look, it's Zolo!" And he wanted to take my picture. That shows you like this kid definitely did dubs. Yeah. So it's all the kids like.
Now let me ask you. I don't want to get on a tangent. Sure. I want a piece of information from you, and we will pick it apart when we eventually watch that anime.
Sure.
Best dub of all time.
Best dub of all time, I honestly want to say it's Cowboy Bebop. Okay. I think we've talked about it. It's the rare case of, and so it's also Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay, so two that we've explored already.
We've explored the two best dubs.
Okay. All right. Okay. But what else did your wonderful wife have to say about?
So she said this. She goes, the closest thing I would say that Luffy is in this show is to Pippi Longstocking.
I actually don't know the story of.
You don't know Pippi Longstocking? Who's coming into your world? She's a freckle-faced redhead girl. You want
Did she drive a magic school bus?
No, she's not Miss Frizzle from Magic. So Pippi Longstocking. Imagine if like Wendy's, the Wendy's girl, like she has the red pony pigtails that go up. Yeah. Was carefree, had no matter in the world, but was like weirdly magical. She could do everything perfectly. She's like the Sakamoto of like. 1960s, 50s, like weird adventures movies. Right. And she would do like I remember one thing that really stuck out to me being like, that's BS, was that she was getting chased in a car, and so she put up her hands with like a double oar, and she just like spun really fast, and they went up like a helicopter. I was like, that's stupid. And I was like, but she's like, yeah, Pippi Longstocking is like Orphan Annie, like a scamp that is kind of magical. Kind of a trope back then.
I could see the line between the two.
Yeah, is that like Luffy it's just like Saitama in One Punch Man. It's like the world happens, Luffy happens, and when the two meet, things happen. Right?
For everyone out there, yes, Luffy is say it with us now, OP.
But he's also like, there's also like the world meets him, regardless of what level he's at. Like Arlong's weak compared to like the enemies he fights now. They all kind of like graduate with him as they go up, so it's kind of cool. And they use like the setting of the Grand Line to show like when you go here, baddies are here. When you go past this line, they're really bad. When you go over there, they want badass. Shut your mouth. I was only talking about Doflamingo. We can take it. Like that is the stuff. The last thing she said, which I thought was true, she goes, I would watch it as an adult, but it would be an okay thing that if we have kids, that I would let them watch or read. And she wouldn't mind watching it together with me, but she wouldn't go out of her way to watch it herself.
So she's gonna do words with friends on her phone while sitting next to you on the couch while it's on TV.
I'm gonna say the next time she watches this is when I make her do it when we come back and revisit. That is my logic. So, Garrett, as we get towards the end of the show, the Weeb and Noob score kind of pointless, but I would say for our purposes, you're at 44. Let's go to where you actually ended off, which was you were at the Alabasta arc, right, where they're at the desert, basically. Are you still there?
Oh, you mean on my original watch?
Yeah, on your original watch. Like, where did you end up? You end up Alabasta arc?
Yeah, it was very Aladdin-esque.
Yes. Now that you're at that point, would you keep watching past that point?
I want to. Mm-hmm. but I don't feel the need to burn through it.
Right.
I would almost set myself a reminder, like one Saturday a month, to be like, let me throw down 5 episodes.
Right.
And come back to it.
Yeah.
You know?
And get your One Piece goggles on and know that, like, oh, here's recap, get up to here, get to the title screen, and now I have 16 minutes of One Piece to watch. Yeah. Right. For me, now where I'm at, which is 937 episodes, I'm now reading the manga past the anime, so I'm actually farther than the anime is.
Yeah.
The battles are big. There's a lot of characters. It's almost a little bit too much for me, but it's kind of like I've invested so much, I might as well keep going. It's like that thing. I've been watching.
Have they said there's ever going to be an end?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So Eiichiro Oda has mentioned there is an end. He knows what it is. And actually, where he is now, they brought up Gold Roger.
Is he going to George R.R. Martin us and, like, never write it?
Oh, no, he's still going. He's still writing stuff. Although, as rich as he is, I'm pretty sure he just says, do this, and other people does it for him now.
Yeah.
But I would say, Eiichiro Oda says he has a plan. And in fact, what's the weird thing about this show is that to him, according to Oda, where he's at now only took 3 years. is the span of the timeline of One Piece takes only 3 years. So Luffy is only maybe 18 now.
Oh, wow.
By the time I'm at it. So,
I mean, I guess that's how you... Well, I mean, hypothetically, like I said, I talked about that Buggy the Clown pirate episode. It's like 4 or 5 episodes. It's one day. Yeah,
it's like one day. So if you think about not watching it in that timeline, so he has like a idea that, like, because he said in 5 years this thing's going to end, but... That's what he means by, like, the timeline, how the timeline's going. Like, he wants to show...
So at 900 episodes, he's at year 3.
Correct.
So he's going to go to 1,500.
Yep. I think he will. Where he's at now, he's nowhere close to being end. I think this thing is going to keep going at least until 2024, 25. I mean, when there's money to be made, he's going to keep doing it. So Weeb idea is, if you get invested, might as well do it. You're going to get the same stuff. It's going to be great. One Piece is awesome. Definitely watch it as an anime fan. Sure. Enjoy it for what it is. So,
as a noob, very low investment. Hop in. You like it, you like it. You don't, you don't.
Not bad.
As I mentioned before, it's one of like the Roman columns upon which the entire universe of anime sits. So, give it a shot. Might not be your favorite thing in the world. Might be your favorite. You might be warm to it, but not hot. You'll have feelings towards it, and Kyle and I, as both a weeb and noob myself, think pretty good chance it's going to lean towards the positive.
Yeah, the juice is worth the squeeze. That's what I say. Like, it's going to there's going to be payoff. It might be now. It might be like by the Arlong arc, which you said had some endearing moments. It could be, but I think Water 7 is definitely like where most people are like, I'm in now. This is the show. This is the time where I'm in now. I get it. I want to keep watching. So if you can make it to episode,
keep in mind, you were saying like 100 episodes are where I'm in.
Yes, and I said it got good by episode 220. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm like, if you really want to get One Piece,
I mean, you're just chickening out.
Yeah,
make it money. Guys, listen to your friendly neighborhood noob, Garrett. Only go to 44. You'll tell by then.
Yes, you can tell by then whether or not you're into it. But also know, by that point, animation gets better, gets more adult. So, so with that being said, Garrett, I appreciate you. Once again, we're going to keep going into it. The next time we revisit it, we'll be a little bit further in. But as always, and as our fans out there, we want to hear your thoughts. Where were you when you first heard of One Piece? What did you think about it when you first dove into the adventures of Monkey D. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates? Did it make you more of a fan, or did it kind of turn you off? Was it too kiddyish to like? Did you watch it the dubs, or did you watch the subs like I did? Tell us what moment you got it was, because we always want to hear what you think. But before we go, Garrett, do you have any last thoughts before we end the show?
Yeah, I just encourage everyone out there, don't be too cool for school. Sometimes people like to crap on the classics. Don't do it here. It's worth it.
It's worth it. And with that, Garrett is now, I'm sending him off on the iceberg float that is the Grand Line, and he's going to end up 6 years later wondering, what year is it? On the One Piece travel that I got to him. But as we go into next week, I want to say, everybody, have a fantastic week.
Take care, y'all. Be well.
You don't have to eat the weeb fruit to push that subscribe button.
GOMU, no! Put your comments down below. Let us know what we should watch next.
We are